Jacob, we finally did it. It's just you and I on this podcast today. Brett couldn't make it. The inmates are running the asylum. We've got the Brit and the idiot. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be fun. We might never do a podcast after this ever again together, but you know what? We're going to rip shit up on this one, man. How's it going, dude? How you doing?
Fuck yeah, man. I am doing good. For those that don't know, shops in the UK are opening up again tomorrow, which means that, fingers crossed, next episode, this will all be gone.
I'm not happy about it. I told you right before we started recording, I'm not happy about it. I'm actually growing mine out, but I'm wearing a hat because it's kind of in that phase right now. You look amazing. Don't cut it, Jacob. I'm telling you, don't cut it. Don't cut it at all. Don't cut it. Keep it growing, baby. So, hey, since it's just you and I, we were kind of, obviously we wanted to talk about kind of the contending teams in the NBA. Who's a legit, title contender, not just someone with a good record that's probably going to flame out in the playoffs. We'll probably talk about that. But since Brett's not here, we wanted to do that with all three of us. So Jacob and I are going to kind of take a little bit of a different turn here. So we started this about, I want to say, a month ago, and we're calling it Friday Night Streams. So every Friday in our Facebook group, The Overstated NBA, there's a bunch of us that everyone's invited to come, and we just there's whatever game we're watching, and we just riff. Talk about basketball. Jacob, you've been on it a couple times. I know it's pretty tough for you because I think by the time we record, it's like midnight or 1 a.m. for you. But you have been on there a couple times, so big shout out to you. And one of the things that we were talking about kind of before we came on and privately yesterday is a good buddy of ours, David Savage, who's in the Overstated group. He's a massive Golden State Warriors fan, and he riffed on for about 5 minutes straight about why Steve Kerr is a bad coach. And I was sitting there pulling my hair out going like, what? Like, dude, he's going to be in Golden State as long as he wants to be. Like, that dude is an amazing head coach. I will take him. I'll tell you right now, I like Mike Budenholzer. I would take him as a Milwaukee Bucks coach 5 minutes ago, an hour ago. I'll take him a week from today. Like, I love Steve Kerr. So, I mean, I guess, Jacob, I'll ask you this. Do you think what is going on with Golden State is a coaching thing, or is it a lack of talent? Is it a little combination of both? Like, when you look at Golden State, what do you see? Because I know you're very high on Steph Curry. I think the numbers dictate. You'll get into it. How good they are with Steph on the court. I think they're a top 10 offense, and without him, when he's on the bench, they are just one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. So kind of, what are your thoughts on what's going on with Golden State, and is it a Steve Kerr problem or a lack of talent?
I think you hit the nail on the head with both of those. It is a Steve Kerr problem-ish, but mostly it's the lack of talent. It's the fact that Steve Kerr has his offensive system, and he's maybe not the most fluid with it. He doesn't totally adapt to the players around him. He prefers to see the players adapt to this hybrid triangle kind of Euro ball system that he created around Steph, where they have a lot of off-ball movement. He hasn't really just adapted to kind of spamming pick and roll with Steph and Draymond and Wiseman. He is just sticking to what he likes. And if that ends up with a Juan Toscano jumper at the end of the shot clock, then so be it. He's happy with that. And so I think you can somewhat say maybe that's not the best idea with the personnel you have. But the problem is in the personnel. They were the worst team in the NBA last season. This year, they added basically Steph Curry and a rookie center, and Kelly Oubre, who's not been playing great, is defending the best player most nights, but offensively has kind of cratered. And they are still much better than they were last year. I was looking win-loss record-wise, they're looking to win about 20 more games than they won last year, with just adding basically Steph Curry and a rookie center. So whether you want to say that they're not doing well or they're underachieving, they were the worst team in the NBA last year, and they are 20 wins better. They're projecting to be 20 wins better than they were last year. That's pretty fucking good, if you ask me.
It is. I wanted to ask you. You brought up something that I'm interested to get your thoughts on. Is James Wiseman and the pick that Golden State had. I mean, I think kind of leading up to the draft, and especially I think now after, I think LaMelo would be awesome in a Golden State Warrior uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I think Golden State kind of went into this season, with James Wiseman is going to be the bridge between Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and this new kind of era that's going to be coming up. He's going to be the guy, so to speak. And I think they said all the right things in the offseason and kind of when the season first started, and they were kind of throwing him out there. I watched the Bucks Golden State game the other day, and just kind of hearing what the media was saying, or the Golden State media around Wiseman. It almost seems like he's unplayable right now. I mean, do you think there's still potential for him? It's so early. We're not going to sit here and write it off. But do you think Golden State has a little bit of buyer's remorse with that pick, because it's really not working out? Centers usually take a long time to develop, right? I mean, that's kind of what you said. Like, were there realistic expectations from Golden State that he was going to all of a sudden be this double guy in the NBA and kind of be that guy while they're still in win now mode?
I don't know. Maybe they did think that James Wiseman would come in and be like an above average starter center, which is obviously ridiculous. He's 20 years old and, he needs to put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle to actually play center in the NBA full time, like 34 minutes a night. I think we'll see them probably tailor his role specifically for what he's good at. Because right now, we're not really seeing him as a pick and pop threat, as a role threat. He isn't being used enough probably in that role. But again, like I said, Steve Kerr probably won't just start spamming pick and roll between Wiseman and Steph. And, that's something I'm sure David Savage, I didn't listen to his rant, but I've seen him talk enough in our Facebook group about Steve Kerr and about the issue he has. And I'm sure he would love to see a lot more Steph, Draymond, Steph, Wiseman pick and roll, just to utilize the skills that those players have. I think they definitely have buyer's remorse around Wiseman, because we've seen now LaMelo looks like a superstar. Patrick Williams, the fourth pick, looks like he could be
you're
the
high
next
on him.
great
You're very
wing.
high on Patrick Williams.
I am very high on Patrick Williams. I think he could be the next great wing in the NBA. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was great. They could probably have traded back like 4 spots, still picked up a better player than Wiseman is right now, and got on future assets. One thing I was interested in, I think it was Zach Lowe talking to, is it Brad Friedel? I can't remember. I think it's
Nick Friedel. Nick Friedel.
I'll
tell you what. Nick Friedel's really funny. He hates the Bucks. He covered the Bulls for a really long time. I listened to that same podcast a little bit. He does not like the Bucks. So whatever, Nick Friedel.
Well, fuck him then.
That's what I'm
saying.
Don't
like the Bucks. That's what I'm saying. Now he's getting to enjoy another crappy team in Golden State, but
karma, baby, karma.
But they were saying like, what they're kind of stuck between these two ways of going, that they probably can't thread the needle. Wiseman probably won't be good enough soon enough to capitalize on Steph, Draymond, and whatever's left of Clay. Before they're like 34, 35, he probably won't be good enough. And whoever they get with the Minnesota pick, assuming they get it, which is like a 50-50 shot, they're probably not going to be good enough in time either, because Steph's going to be 33 next year. And Steph is probably still going to be good when he's like 36, but he's not going to be Steph Curry when he's 36. So what are you going to do? And obviously Draymond is, when Draymond's like 32, 33, is he still going to be in the NBA? Who knows?
I mean, offensively, I mean, Draymond is, I mean, he's rough to watch right now offensively. He's not really spreading the floor like he should be. But I was going to say, so what the big critique on Steve Kerr was, at least from our Friday night streams, was his rotations and things like that. And to me, it's tough to. I look at Golden State, and I just don't see a lot of talent there outside of Steph Curry. We've already seen I think enough of Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota, soon to be Seattle. It's. I'm not sure what more Andrew Wiggins is, how much more he's going to impact winning. And I've always said this about the NBA. It's a players' league. If you have the star talent, chances are you're going to be in contention every single year. And it's the coach's job to kind of, mend those egos and bring everyone kind of together, from on the court and off the court. So I just don't know what else Steve Kerr can do. I don't think they're still in the thick of the playing game, the playoff race. I mean, I'm not like you could put Phil Jackson there, you could put Greg Popovich there. I don't think you're getting much better results in Golden State.
No, I don't think so either. Maybe someone who is like super pragmatic, like a Pat Riley, could eke out a couple more wins by playing to everyone's strengths and just not having a kind of system by himself. But you're right. I don't think no coach in NBA history is really getting much more out of this team than Steve Kerr's getting right now. And you're right. With Andrew Wiggins, we've seen at what point is like Andrew Wiggins being overstretched. Like he is probably playing his best basketball of his career. Like he's playing quite good defensively. He's efficient offensively for like the first time ever. And he's probably at his best like a fifth option or like maybe a fourth option. Like he's realistically, he should be what maybe Harrison Barnes was for the original Golden State Warriors. And Harrison Barnes was what the fifth best player in that lineup. He might have actually been the sixth best player after Andrew Bogut, but he just played in the death lineups. Like, you know how good Bogut was in those years. Like, that's how good he should be. And right now, he's probably the third best player on that team. So they are 3-4 players down from what they need to be to really have a contender. They have no one around Steph and Draymond at this point.
And I do think in defense of kind of the front office a little bit, that Clay injury happened the day before the draft happened, or it was right around that time. It was super super quick, and that Clay injury, from everything that we had heard, he was coming back strongly. It was I don't want to downplay an ACL injury, but in today's era, like ACL injuries aren't a death blow anymore. You can come back from that, especially someone with his skill set. I mean, I think the Clay injury just really it shook them. I don't think there's any other way to say it, but at the end of the day, man, I can tell you as a long suffering Bucks fan, like I would do anything to have this run that Golden State had. Like I know even Brett kind of posted it in the overstated group how long Steve Kerr should have that job until Steve Kerr doesn't want that job anymore. I think, Steve Kerr is someone that if he's not going to be able to give it 100% and he's not going to be in love with it, I think Steve Kerr would quit himself. But until then, if I'm the owners of the Warriors, if you want to be light years ahead, like they claim to be, like this is what the normal NBA is. Players get hurt. They had Golden State had a run where none of their guys got hurt, and in an anomaly, I mean, right? If the cap doesn't jump up the way it jumps up like that, they never even sniff Kevin Durant, and they got him. So I mean, like if I'm a Warriors fan, like everything else is just gravy. Like we want to win. Maybe they botched the Wiseman pick. Maybe they didn't. I think there's way too soon to say that. It's just, I think Warrior fans have to just chill, because before, Steve Kerr came and Steph Curry came, like they were the Sacramento Kings for a while. They had the Baron Davis run, but other than that, they were not a good team. So I think people just need to chill with that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, between Run TMC and the Steph Curry years, it was the We Believe Warriors. That was it. For them. They were one of the bottom dwellers in the league. And now we look at them as if they're some kind of dynastic team, and not just a team which, caught lightning in a bottle and went on an amazing run. And yet, Steve Kerr, I was a bit shocked by that post Brett had where he was like, is the Steve Kerr's seat starting to get hot? And I agree with you. I think Steve Kerr has this job as long as he wants it. 5-time finalist, 3-time champion with the Golden State Warriors. Like, you can't get, unless like something nuclear goes wrong in that franchise with Steve Kerr, like he drops some racist tweet or, some homophobic, like there's nothing that should be kicking Steve Kerr out of a job at this point in his career. He has turned this franchise into the winningest franchise. That they had like a 3-4 year run, which is maybe the best 3-4 year run ever outside of, the Jordan Bulls. So the idea that you could remove him after 2 bad seasons is a bit laughable to me. And it's well, especially after the Clay injury, the Wiseman pick, and they had lots of bad picks in a row. Steve Kerr isn't making those picks, and they're picking in the 28th, 29th
Well,
range.
I'm glad you brought that up
Yeah.
too, because it's when you're a good team, like you're always going to be picking at the back end of the draft. It's not like the '80s Lakers where they're some dumbass GM or owner sold them the second pick and they have a decade's worth. It's not like that anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's when you're picking at the back end of the draft every single time. And I'm sorry, like I think we said it, like, is Draymond Green the best second round pick ever? Like all second round picks don't hit. Like you're not going to hit those very often. And this is what a normal NBA team after a run like they've had looks like. I think that people just need to kind of chill now. If 5 years down the road, if Golden State is still having these front office mishaps and there's still issues, okay, then I think you can kind of have a conversation about it. But I mean, I just don't know what else Golden State can do. But let's kind of pivot to another team. Derek Michael, you're really going to want to listen to this segment. I promise you. Turn the volume up just a little bit more. The Boston Celtics. Again, during those Friday night streams, we were watching the Celtics Minnesota game. Tatum offensively was unbelievable. He was locked in, lights out. But again, dude, a Minnesota team they went into overtime with. They ended up winning in overtime. What, Jacob, do you think is going on with Boston? I mean, you talk to Boston fans. Certainly we do every day in our group. I mean, they just completely hate Brad Stevens. They want him gone. Danny Ainge, and all the trade exception and everything else. Why aren't the Boston Celtics better than what their record is? Because record-wise, they're just a 500 team. And I think from a talent perspective, I think we think they're higher than that. I don't know where you had them in our preseason. I'm pretty sure we all had them in the top 4, maybe top 3. But what do you think is going on with the Boston Celtics?
Well, actually, this is something we touched on last week, Brett and I, in the Primes podcast, where we talked about kind of Tatum's prime, Jalen's prime, what that's going to look like. And ultimately, we're changing eras in Boston basketball. I think you got to think, why aren't they doing so well? Because in the last 2-3 years, they've lost 4 All-Stars. They lost Horford, they lost Kyrie, they've lost Gordon Hayward, and now Kemba might never be an All-Star again, might never properly recover. And they're building around 22-year-olds who are way back from where they're going to be. Like Tatum, when he's 26, 27, is probably going to be one of the 5 or 10 best players in the league. He's not that right now. And they have to be building around Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams and maybe Marcus Smart, who looks like he might actually be past his prime now as well, which is kind of scary. Like we have to think about, I think Boston basketball had an era from like 2016, 2017 to 2020. That was an era of Boston basketball. We're now transitioning into the next era, which is going to be built around Tatum as the number one option. Because Tatum, he maybe last year he was their best player. I don't think he was like the number one option when you've got Kemba and Gordon Hayward, who are both really good creators and good at attacking the basket and have these diverse skill sets. Tatum is like a 21, 22-year-old. He doesn't have that yet. And Brad Stevens is still a young coach. Like we think about Brad Stevens as if, he's been in the NBA forever. And at this point, he's been in here for like 6-7 years, but he's still 40 years old. He's really, like that's nothing for a coach. And this year, the one thing that's really stuck out to me is that their defense for the first year, because for Brad Stevens' whole tenure, the offense has been like quite good. It's been like, a bit above average every year, but their defense has been really good. Like one of the best defenses in the league every single year. This year, they're below average. That is more of an issue to me than the fact that, they're having a slightly down year, because I think we did all predict them to come fourth. They could still easily come fourth with like a 500 record, because it's what Charlotte.
The East is so bad.
Yeah. I mean, coming fourth this year is not like really fourth, because they're still like 6 games behind Milwaukee in third, and they're probably going to end up being like 8 games behind Milwaukee, and they could still come fourth. So it's not really the same, but Boston could still be all right this year. I thought I'd come into this thinking Boston are going to be god awful, like they are really underperforming. We might reach the end of the year and be like, you know what? It was kind of a bit of a toss-up year. We just like to take the piss out of Boston because they have the jerseys. The fact they made jerseys this year that are of the title banners this year is just it's perfect. But like it's DEFCON 4 for them or whatever it is, DEFCON 1. I don't know which way DEFCONs go. It's the bad one for Boston fans. But I think I'm like, so what? You know, they're gonna be like a not great team, but they're still gonna make the playoffs this year and get like thrashed by Philly or Brooklyn. Yeah, it's a down year for them. They'll rebuild.
I think they'll be fine. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this kind of last year, up until the All-Star break. You know, Jason Tatum was kind of meh, and then he turned it on in the second half. And granted, I think another thing, which I'm sure we'll touch on later, you know, a lot of these players in these teams, they're playing a lot of games in a very short amount of time. You know, it seems like their teams are playing every other day, then they have a back-to-back, then they have a day off, then it's another game. We're really upping it up to, you know, it's interesting when you look at it before the season starts, you're like, oh, well, you know, they should be fine. And then when you're in the grind of it and you're actually looking at it, like, it's like, holy shit, like these teams are playing a lot of games in a lot of days here. And I'm with you. I think that really the next step for Jason Tatum is once he makes his teammates around him better, I mean, dude, he's going to be phenomenal. And I think that you're spot on with him. You know, he's going to be eventually in a couple years, he's going to be that annual MVP candidate. He's going to have Boston right there. It's just, he's super young. And I think the problem is with the Boston Celtics, and, you know, I love all their fans. You know, I'm not hating on them, you know, the ones in our group, especially, like, you know, but dude, they've anointed this guy as the chosen one, you know, when he was 18 years old, and you know, they're expecting him to compete for titles. And to his credit, I mean, they've made how many Eastern Conference Finals? 2. So I mean, I think that they're three. Yeah, I think it is 3. That first year, I think that they're fine. Yeah. Like they'll be fine. And I think what we're seeing is you're not unless you're like, you know, a LeBron James, like really. Probably LeBron James. I mean, I think you can throw Kevin Durant in there, even though with his injury, like you're not going to be in the finals every single year. You know, like this is kind of what the NBA is, and it's a grind, and shit happens. Injuries happen. You know, Kemba Walker with his bad knee. You know, Marcus Smart. I feel like Boston's entire core have been in and out of the lineup for like the last 3 years now. Like there's always, whether it was Gordon Hayward before that or Marcus Smart, there's always some issue, and I just think this is kind of what the normal NBA is. You know, it's kind of what I grew up watching, where it's not going to be the Michael Jordan Bulls and then there's everybody. You know what I mean, Jacob? Like, it's just like it's hard to win. You know, like shit. Like, look at Milwaukee. Like, Milwaukee's window could be. I certainly, as a Homer fan, I don't think their window is shut. But, you know, like, Brooklyn's a lot better than they were in the last 2 years. You know, you have Philly's better. You know, I just think it's a very. There's not a lot of margin for error when it comes to winning championships. And Boston, I think they'll be fine. I really do.
No.
I like that.
And they made a decision with how they built up their roster. They made a decision. Like, we go back to 2016, where they could have signed Kevin Durant. Like, if Golden State, if the sudden jump up in salary cap hadn't happened, I think it probably comes down to like OKC and Boston for who gets Kevin Durant, because Boston was a great situation. They had Al Horford, they had IT before the injury, they had loads of cap space, they had loads of draft assets. They could have built a real contender around Kevin Durant straight away. It didn't happen. The salary jumped up. Golden State had the room to sign him. It's a once in a lifetime kind of salary event. You got unlucky. Then you traded IT for Kyrie. Kyrie left the franchise in, you know, whatever the hell happened with Kyrie. Al Horford, you had, whatever happened with him. But still, like, you took a swing. You got Kyrie. You signed Al Horford. You signed Gordon Hayward. And in 5 minutes on his debut, he breaks his leg. You know, you signed Kemba. And in the first season you have him, he gets a really bad knee injury. Like, Boston have made moves that to win championships. And I think Danny Ainge, the fact that Danny Ainge is always in the mix for trades at this point is such a meme, and it's so fucking funny
It's
when it
so
gets
funny
to
because they
like,
get so mad
it's
over
so
it. They get so
they
mad
get
over it.
so mad when it's like when everyone's like, yeah, wait for after the trade deadline, it's going to be like Vucevic. They were this close to getting Vucevic, and then it actually comes out that they were this close to getting Vucevic, and it's like you can just predict this shit. But they made good decisions ultimately, and they just got unlucky. You can't say they shouldn't have signed Gordon Hayward. Fuck yeah, they should have signed Gordon Hayward. He's awesome. He just broke his leg. Kemba was a great player. He just got a bad injury. Kyrie is Kyrie.
But you
They
would
just made
we all would have made that Kyrie trade. Everybody would have for Isaiah Thomas wanting a max, and Isaiah was great for Boston. I do believe in karma, so I do think some of this is just some bad juju for Boston. But everybody was trading Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving. There wasn't one person that wasn't making that trade. Now was Kyrie an alpha? That can be debated all we want, but every single person in the NBA was making that trade. There wasn't one. And I think,
absolutely.
if you ask a Celtics fan now, I mean, would you have traded Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard? I mean, you look kind of at Kawhi with Toronto, and now as some years have gone by, Kawhi Leonard was not the leader of that Toronto Raptors team, which I know we want to talk about them a little bit. That was Kyle Lowry. That was Kyle Lowry, Nick Nurse. Those two guys were the leaders of that team. It wasn't Kawhi. Kawhi goes to the Clippers, and you just see, the Clippers are going to Clipper. There's no real leadership over there. It just kind of seems to be a cluster. I'm just saying, not to rip on the Clippers, I have never seen, well, I probably have, but not in recent memory, a team going into the playoffs, granted, I know it was the bubble, as such heavy favorites to win the title and just get not even make it to the conference finals, and just blowing a 3-1 lead. So, I mean, I think if you're Boston, it's really tough to rip on Danny Ainge that much. I do think it can have a negative effect on players when so many you're in trade rumors all the time, whether it's real or not real. I do think the golden goose for Boston was Anthony Davis. I think they would have gone all in for him. Unfortunately, whatever happened, Anthony Davis did not want to go there, whether it was Clutch, whether it was Kyrie telling him that he was leaving. But, other than that, not to go back to the Bucks, but if I'm a Bucks fan, I want Danny Ainge as my GM. I want Brad Stevens as my coach. Yeah. You can give me them again. You could give me them a week from today, and I'll be as happy as can be.
Yeah, exactly. They're a great team. They just, it's like you say, it's super hard to win if you don't have Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kevin Durant or someone like that. It's super hard to win, and it comes down to the finest details that get you to that title. Like Boston, realistically, the 2020 Boston might be the closest they came to a title ever. They lost 4-2 to Miami. They could have won that series maybe if Gordon Hayward was healthy. Then they go to the finals. They're pretty well matched against the Lakers. I don't think they have really any answers for AD or LeBron, but no one does. But they could have won it, and that might end up being as close as they come in this era to getting to the finals and winning the title, and that's okay. That's the Celtics just kind of, they judge themselves as if they are the 60s Celtics that win every year, when you are not. You are just another franchise with a lot of banners at this point.
And I'm glad that, I didn't kind of know where this conversation was going to go today, but it's hard to win in the NBA. I think fan bases need to just, they need to chill. You see, especially if I go on a Bucks fan page, dude, you just want to rip your head out. Cause I'm do you guys remember where we were 4 years ago? We sucked. We have sucked basically my entire life. And I saw with the Drew Holiday signing, they're what a shitty big three Milwaukee has. You know what? I've seen a lot worse, man. I've seen a lot worse. At least my team's going to get competitive. Like I said earlier, maybe their window is closing with how good Brooklyn is, but who knows? Anything can happen. I'm just happy that we have a competitive team. And yes, you know what? You and I joke with you about it all the time in kind of our Fox feud that we have. But you play to win the game. That's still a goal. But you also want to have as much ammo or as much bullets in your gun to get to the finals. You want to be as stocked as possible, or stacked as possible. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you need to have breaks go your way. it happens. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's super hard. And I think Toronto is another team. But before we get into the Toronto Tampa Bay Raptors, Jacob, you know what is super awesome, man?
What's awesome?
Fucking Manscaped is super awesome, dude. I have Manscaped, you have Manscaped. They sponsor this podcast. They've been absolutely great to us. The kit that they send to us is phenomenal. Go to manscaped.com, use promo code overstated. You get 20% off and free shipping. I mean, dude, I've gotten it for family members, I've gotten it for friends. It's awesome. And kind of what I tell people, and I'm curious to hear what you do. I mean, the trimmer is great. I like that the light on it. I think it's awesome. But for me, man, it's the ball deodorant, the lotion that comes with it, the ball toner. I mean, you think about it, it's the sweatiest part of your body. I mean, we use deodorant on our armpits. Why wouldn't we want that area smelling good? I use it every single day, man. It's phenomenal, Jacob. It is awesome. I love the T-shirt that I got with it, the boxers, the little kit, the little kind of the ditty bag. You can put it all in. I take it to the gym with me every morning. It's phenomenal, man. It's so awesome.
Hmm.
It is. It is. So
No,
use.
absolutely. Because when no, yeah, because when they sent all the stuff over, I was like, yeah, the razor looks sick, but you are right. The deodorants, all the stuff they have is probably for me my favorite part, just because that was the stuff I wasn't expecting, and it was a game changer. That shit was awesome.
It was awesome,
I
man.
can't
I
cannot
can't.
recommend Manscaped
Hell
enough.
yeah, man. Manscaped is awesome. I even told it to some people at the gym that I was at that said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, man, Manscaped. Put a little spray on there, make yourself looking good, feeling good." So again, you can go to uh, manscaped.com. Type in promo code overstated. You get 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com. Promo code overstated, 20% off and free shipping. I promise you, fellas, it'll change your life in a positive way. Ladies, if you're listening to this, get your man or some man that you know, brother, husband, dad. Dad, get him some Manscaped stuff. They'll thank you. They won't thank you enough. But Jacob, you wanted to talk about the Toronto Raptors a little bit. Kind of what
Yeah.
we're just getting right into it. What I think that the biggest issue with Toronto is that they're playing in Tampa Bay. They're playing in Florida. They're playing in a place that's really not familiar. I think that can throw everything out of whack. We saw how the bubble threw everything out of whack for some teams. I think the same thing is happening with the Toronto Tampa Raptors. You have Pascal Siakam and Nick Nurse kind of getting into a heated argument, so to speak, which wasn't a good look. What is your
Hmm.
assessing the situation? What's going on with Toronto, with Tampa? They kept Kyle Lowry. We all know he's the greatest Raptor in the history of that organization. He seems to be cool with it. They seem to be cool with it. What do you think is going on with the Toronto Tampa Bay Raptors?
I think you hit on one of the things which probably doesn't get brought up enough is the fact that they are a Canadian. They're from Toronto and they are playing what five? I don't know how many thousands of miles away from home. Like, just imagine if for you, Steve, if suddenly your company said, "Yeah, so you're going to have to go live in Miami for the next. We're not sure. Maybe until April. Maybe until June." Not sure. And then you're like, right, do my kids come with me? Does my wife come with me? Do I put them into a daycare somewhere down here? Do I leave them in Milwaukee? You just imagine your life is just upended for the next year and you're not even sure how long it's going to be. Do you rent a place until the end of the regular season, until after the finals? What's going to happen next year? This team, like, their whole lives have just been upended by this situation, and it's not really being brought up. But that would really, that would throw me off
Oh,
if I and
absolutely.
I don't have kids,
I'd be
and that
I'd
would
be
be
fucked up by it. I'm telling you
yeah.
right. Like I would be like wherever it is, especially with I think what people also have to understand is the NBA. Granted, Florida is kind of more open than other states in America, but these the NBA players still have to adhere to COVID restrictions. It's though they can't leave their houses. Basically, they can't really go anywhere except to the facility. Like it's not like they're living it up in Florida. I would be fucked up by it. I
Yeah.
know, it would bother me a lot. Like I would want to be back home, some
Hmm.
familiarity, my own bed, shit like that. Like I can't imagine what it's like for
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, and like you say, a lot of what I've heard from people like Doris Burke or people like Jackie McMullen, Zach Lowe, Woj, when you hear them, those guys that actually talk to NBA players on a daily basis and coaches and front office executives, is how little anyone's enjoying this season to begin with. Is how much, like you say, getting tested. I don't know how many times you've been tested. I've been
Once,
tested
one
like
time.
twice a week. Even I get tested twice a week in school, and it is fucking awful getting tested, especially when you're pretty sure you're fine. And you're just having to go into this booth, stick a thing down your throat, stick a thing up your nose, and then you got to give it in. And like every time I've done it, I've had like violent sneezing fits
Yeah,
afterwards, and
yeah.
it's horrible. And then you got to do that if you're an NBA player. You got to do that like twice a day, and then you got to do it before the games. Like you say, you cannot meet anyone. Like imagine that is awful. And then you have to do that on top of everything we said about having to move your life across the country and be away from your family for like 8 months to a year. And we wonder why, these guys, performance wise, they're underperforming what they should be doing. And this team isn't hugely good right now anyway. Like Fred Van Vliet, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, all these guys aren't first options on a great team. They're more like third options on great teams. And we're seeing them, they're not really even playing that badly. They just don't have a great roster around them, and they're just losing these games that maybe they should be winning it. But at this point, the Toronto Raptors kind of need to veer into the tank, because do they want to be the 10th seed? And what maybe they get through the play, and that's going to be tough by itself. Then you have to play Brooklyn or Philly in round one and get absolutely curb stomped by Brooklyn or Philly. I don't think they really want that. I would just, at this point, I would be fading for Cade. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to it
you
at
know,
this point for
and
Toronto.
it's interesting about Toronto too is when Masai came over there, we all thought that he was going to, he wanted to build that team the way he wanted to build it, and I think there was a Kyle Lowry to New York rumor that was really,
Mm-hmm.
really, really hot at the time, but he stuck with it. And outside of DeMar DeRozan, he traded for Kawhi. He's really let everybody else kind of walk away from that championship team, right? Ibaka left as a free agent, Gasol left as a free agent. Kawhi left as a free agent. I mean, Kyle Lowry is almost certainly to be in another place, next season, trying to win another title possibly. So it's not like that Toronto is trading these guys from their championship team for assets. You know what I mean? Like I think that from everything we've heard, the asking price for Kyle Lowry was really, really high, and I think that Toronto and Kyle Lowry were both okay with him coming back. They didn't have a problem with it. But where do you kind of see Toronto, Jacob, for next season in the future here? Because like I said, they let a lot of players walk. It's not like they're getting anything in return for those players.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I mean, did they get now? Yeah, now you mention it, they've still got Siakam and Fred Van Vliet, but if Lowry walks, then Lowry, Danny Green, Kawhi, Ibaka, and Marc Gasol all left for nothing in free agency. That's a starting five they had, like minus Siakam and Fred Van Vliet. That's their championship starting five,
Yeah.
and they're just going to let them leave for nothing. And yeah, I'm not sure which direction they want to go. I think they probably want to stay competitive. Like they're putting out all the signs are that they want to be competitive, but is it the right move to be competitive right now? When, like you say, why they're asking so much for Lowry is beyond me. Like if I could just get something for him at this stage, I'd be quite happy, because he's making like 30 million a year. He's 34, 35 years old. And yeah, I don't like, he's realistically, the fact that he is like in his mid 30s making a huge amount of money, and you might still get assets back for him rather than having to give assets up for him, is a positive.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they didn't try to get something for him, but they obviously want to be competitive. They obviously want to win. That's obviously not going to happen
Yeah.
right now. And they need to make a decision at this point. And they are probably, for me, my most disappointing team, because we all had them as the sixth seed. We all had them, I remember, because we were talking about them as like they're the best of the rest. Outside the teams like that we expected to be good, like Brooklyn and Boston and Philly and Milwaukee. We expected Toronto to be the best of every other team in the Eastern Conference, and they have been worse than the Knicks. They've been worse than Chicago, who have been bottom dwellers for the past half a decade. And it's a bit bemusing because then you think, right, who they got? They got Siakam, they got Fred VanVleet. These are good players. Chris Boucher looks like a good player, and they're not really setting up for anything going forward. They don't have a huge amount of assets. They don't have really a direction right now. Do they want to squeak in and be a low-end playoff team? I mean, they were that for a while, and they built themselves up to be a contender in the East until LeBron destroyed them every year. And then Kawhi came in, and they won a championship, and now they're kind of there on that downward trajectory without really any hope of doing it. So for me, they are probably my most disappointing team this year in the sense that I don't think they're going to go in the direction they should go, which is probably rebuild. But if they don't go in that direction, I see them eventually doing it anyway against their own wishes. That's my kind of issue with them right now.
I agree too, and just from a standing perspective, the Knicks are currently the eighth seed, and Toronto is 5 games back of the Knicks. And it's crazy going back and looking at our standings. I think I was a little bit higher on Charlotte than you guys were, and we know this changes, but Charlotte is currently the 4th seed at 27 and 24. And that's followed by Atlanta, Miami, you have Boston and New York. And I think Indiana is, looking at it right now, is 24 and 27. And then the Bulls are the 10th seed, 2 games back. So again, a lot can happen. There's a lot of games left, but I mean, that top 8 seems kind of be almost, they're starting to pull away a little bit. And, I think, like you said, with Toronto, Tampa Bay, it doesn't seem like they're even going to have a shot at the play-in. But one team I did want to talk to you about is, your Denver Nuggets. We all know you are you stand for Jokic. You've been kind of on the right side of this thing the entire time. I think you had him as your MVP earlier. Stop laughing!
I did, yeah.
You had him as your MVP.
That's because I always said. Because I was saying before, early in the season, I kept saying to Steve, having Jokic as the MVP is the right side of history. And Steve was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is going on?
It's true.
So,
it's true.
Yeah,
and we had a good debate about it. I said I think they were the 8th seed at the time, the 9th or the 8th seed. And I said there was no way they're giving the MVP to a team that is the 8th seed. Well, they're up to the 4th seed now. And what did I say? They had to have been a top 4 team for Jokic to have a legit shot. And I think that I do agree with you. He is the front runner. And to be fair, as much shit as I gave you, I did say there's a lot of ball game left. I said there's a lot of time left for Jokic to make it. And again, the NBA is hard, right? You have Embiid, everyone that would have challenged Jokic. You had Harden and Giannis. We already knew no matter what, we're not going to win it. They just based on lack of postseason success in the narrative, they weren't going to win it. LeBron gets hurt. Embiid gets hurt. KD gets hurt. To me, Jokic is the clear front runner, and I'm confident now. What is today? April 11th, saying that Jokic is going to win the MVP, barring any sort of injury that he's going to have. It's going to be him. But they look absolutely phenomenal. They're 9-1 in their last 10 since the Aaron Gordon trade. We didn't get a chance to ask you because you couldn't make it, the podcast that we did when we kind of did our trade deadline reactions. Has Aaron Gordon been better than what you thought? Could this have gone any better for Denver? And what were your initial thoughts when Denver first got Aaron Gordon?
My initial thoughts were, wasn't sure because it's on the surface, it looks like a match made in heaven. Aaron Gordon, hyper athletic, size to defend, Kawhi, LeBron, AD, whoever you want to throw him on, he has the size, the speed, the strength to defend that person. And you hope, can he buy into the role that he needs to play? And this is what I was slightly, my one hesitation is Aaron Gordon, does he have the skill to fulfill that role? And is he going to buy into that role? And it has looked like 10 out of 10s across the board. Aaron Gordon's buying into the role. He's just setting screens, cutting to the basket, doing like some things as like the fourth option on offense, even the fifth option at times on offense. He's doing what he needs to do. And then he is actually guarding, generally speaking, the best players on the other end. It's been just as well as I think any trade could have gone for any team this year. Like, we've seen Vucevic go to Chicago. It's taken a little while for the Vucevic and Levine to fit together. They combined for like 75 points on like 50 shots a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
So they look like they're getting there. But Gordon might have just jumped Denver up to the higher echelon of title contenders. Like, they might be my second team in the West right now, behind the Lakers. Out of teams that can actually reach the finals, I think they're probably the second best team in the Western Conference. And Jokic is obviously been my MVP pick. And just to remind people, in our preview pod, I said the bet was Jokic at 30-1 to win MVP.
You did. I had Embiid. You did.
I wish I was a better man.
I wish
I was a better man.
I will admit. Well, I had money. I still have money on Embiid, but I did acknowledge when Embiid got hurt, like it's a wrap, because I think even Chase said on our Friday night streams, I think Jokic rarely misses any games. He's out there all the time, and it's a credit to him. And I agree with you on everything you said about Aaron Gordon. It's funny because we heard for about a year and a half, Bradley Beal to Denver makes the most sense. Bradley Beal to Denver, what would Denver have to give up to pry Bradley Beal out of Washington? And when you look at it, granted, I don't even think Denver really gave up a lot to get Aaron Gordon. Everyone's going to go back to Gary Harris, and Gary Harris's defense against the Clippers in the playoffs was really good. It was phenomenal, but your best ability is your availability. And Gary Harris it's always some sort of injury that is keeping him out of the lineup. And I actually like this move just based, again, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. They haven't lost a game since they've gotten Aaron Gordon, but it's almost a better move than getting Bradley Beal. Like Aaron Gordon he can do the little things. Like you said, he's still hyper athletic. And it was kind of a theme. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it with Brett and I with the trade deadline, is especially because we focus on Orlando a lot, right? It was a lot of guys who were asked to be number one, number two options, and it just wasn't working. And now they all went to teams where, they can be the fourth or fifth options. Aaron Gordon doesn't have to go out and get you 25 points for you to even have a chance to win a game. There's other players on Denver that can handle that for him, and he can just go in and be himself. And I think so far the fit has been fantastic. And if you, Jacob, are saying that this move, what you've seen so far, puts Denver in your upper echelon, because I've never heard you say that before. To be honest, you've always been high on Jokic, but I think you've been a little bit more down on the Nuggets than most people. And if you're saying this puts them up to that actual title contender, and if the season ended today, the Lakers and the Nuggets would play each other in round one.
They would, and that is a scary matchup for both teams because LeBron and AD aren't going to have much ramp-up time before the playoffs, and they're going to have to defend Jokic, who is just a mountain. Like, he's scarily big. Like, even when you think last year they had to defend him, AD couldn't really defend Jokic because he's just too big. It's like defending Embiid. Like, there's nothing you can do to a guy who's 7'1", and like 280 pounds. There's just, if you don't have another person who's that size, there's not much you can throw at that sized human. And Jokic is he's too good right now. Jokic is, for me, the best offensive player in the league. Whether you want to say Embiid has been better than him this year, my go-to for that is, yes, maybe you might say, actually, I think Embiid and Jokic, both of them at their best, I would prefer Embiid. I'm not really going to argue that, but Jokic has played 800 more minutes this year than Joel Embiid.
Your best ability is your availability. Your best ability. Like, Jokic is going to go out there, and like I said, I remember I was sitting upstairs while Ed was at my house on my counter, and I remember I was hungover, and we were looking at the numbers together, and I said, I will take Joel Embiid. I think Doc Rivers is going to be there, and you took Jokic, so that's Fuck, man, I got to take another
Yeah.
defeat to fucking Jacob. You fuck. God
To
damn
be
it.
fair, we both that was my hot take. I remember my hot take was that Joel Embiid will have the best season for a center since Shaq. And realistically, when he's healthy, maybe he has been. And, maybe if he was healthy the whole year, he's MVP, like you want him to be. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, he's the only other person I've thought was MVP potential apart from Jokic this year. For
Same.
me, it's been those two out in front.
Same.
And now he's not healthy enough. He hasn't been. Maybe we'll see in the playoffs.
Well,
Maybe we'll
I also
see.
think though what hurt Jokic's cause at the beginning of the season was how bad Denver was. He was really good, but
Mhm.
his team wasn't winning, and we all know. You and I, we always like to have a laugh about it. See that what I did there? Have a laugh. Geez, you're rubbing off on me, Jacob. Like the MVP, no matter what we say about it, it's always going to go to the player that has the greatest impact on winning. That's what the data tells us, and I think that
Mhm.
hurt Jokic early on because I believe it was Brett, right? I think Brett said Denver was going to be have the best record in the regular season
Yeah,
before the
it
season
is.
started.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think if that had happened right away, like if Denver came out of the gates running, I think Jokic would have been the front runner from the get go. But
No, yeah, no question.
I do think he has it
Yeah.
locked up. And I know that we'll kind of wrap this up here. I know we kind of want to save our contenders for next episode, but you did mention you have the Lakers and the Nuggets in the West. Who do you have in the East, Jacob? And I'm going to tell you, answer this very, very carefully.
I do actually have as number one in the East and number one overall in the NBA. I have Brooklyn as my
Yeah,
number
you
one
have to.
contender, and so yeah. But I think it's shocking. Like you're going to hate me saying this. I think Milwaukee is closer than people give them credit for
I
right
do.
now. I think with Drew Holiday as your third option, there's no way in a playoff game Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday are all going to be firing blanks in a given playoff game. Beating this Milwaukee team 4 times out of 7 is going to be a real achievement because they are fucking good.
It
Like Drew.
and I've said this. I use again. Sometimes I get caught up in these, little Bucks forums or even around my friends. And I've said this. I said this before the season. I said the Milwaukee Bucks aren't their record in the regular season is going to be worse than it has been because they're going to try new things. And I watch them every night, and I'm telling you, they're not doing the drop down defense as much as they have. They're trying to switch more on pick and rolls. It's the number one reason why they got PJ Tucker because PJ Tucker excels at
Mm-hmm.
switching on pick and rolls and a switching defense, which is what Milwaukee wants. They haven't had a lot of practice time. And this is the best team from a talent perspective that Giannis has had. And I say your line, Jacob. You said it when the Bucks got Drew Holiday. Eric Bledsoe might be able to average. Shout out to Bled. I still love him. I'm wearing his hat. He might average 17
You're wearing the hat right
I
now,
am.
yeah.
He might average 16 to 17 points in the regular season. Way too much in the playoffs, though. That number is going to go down to maybe 10 or 11. Drew Holiday can average 17 points in the regular season. That number is either going to stay the same or it's going to go up to 20 points, 21 points a game. And he has been phenomenal. I think we're going to the game. I want to see him live in a Bucks uniform. I'm going to go see him on Saturday. Like that dude is unbelievable. I mean, he really is. And I agree with you. I think Milwaukee is going to be a tougher out than people think. I think once the playoffs come around, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a completely different team. I do not expect them to be how they were last year. And I think Philly's going to be there in the East, and I think Boston is. But I don't know how any sane person can bet against Brooklyn at this point. I mean, when you have all those guys out there, and just I know we just talked about Jokic as the MVP, and I agree. But I mean, if James Harden is right there, that dude has kept that team afloat all season long with KD being out, Kyrie missing games here and there. Like their firepower is just
Mm-hmm.
it's unbelievable. Any one of those guys can go off at any single time.
Yeah, we said when they made the trade, I think you and Brett were more big. You were like, this could be the best offense ever. I think I was more hesitant because my question is, will Kyrie Irving be the third option? Kyrie Irving will absolutely be the third option. He will absolutely run around run around screens for 12 minutes, and then get maybe 4 minutes where he gets the ball in his hands. He seems happy with that. And if Kyrie is happy with that role, Brooklyn can be the best offense ever. When you have Joe Harris out there, a legitimate 45% three-point shooter, just standing out on the perimeter, taking shots, it is unfair. And when you have Nick Claxton, when you have LaMarcus Aldridge coming in, Blake Griffin, like these guys, like that trade deadline shit was pretty hilarious. They're like,
Yeah.
Brooklyn have broken the NBA with LaMarcus Aldridge. It's like, have you seen LaMarcus Aldridge in San Antonio? But he can take a spot up three. He can, set a screen, pick and pop with Harden, with Kyrie, with KD. He can do that. He's not a good player, but he does have some offensive skills that this team, you run that 5-man lineup, they probably can't defend anyone, but they can score on anyone. And like I said with Milwaukee, it's tough to see a team outscoring Brooklyn 4 games out of 7 in the playoffs, because they're scary good.
They are, and it's going to be like, I can't wait for the playoffs to start. I know we got a good decent amount of the regular season left, but like I just like, let's go. Like I'm getting more excited by the day. It's going to be a good playoffs, and it's going to be fun. But we're going to talk about contenders.
And you guys are going to have the tough run.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be
You're
fun,
man. You're going to have the toughest run, Milwaukee.
Oh, dude,
I know, man. I know. Fun.
I'm already starting to get nervous. There'll be no more live streams with me on it if Milwaukee's playing that night and it's the playoffs. Like I will go sit in the dark, sit by myself and turn my phone off. But we're gonna do, Jacob. We're gonna do the contenders one.
I'm ready for the therapy sessions.
Oh, fuck you! I hate you. God damn it!
I'm ready. Therapy sessions are back in. I'm ready.
But that's gonna do it for us. Brett will be back next week. We're gonna do our contenders one next week. This was awesome. Jacob and I do the dynamic duo. You know what? I mean, we can. This was fun. Let's fucking Brit. This was awesome. Are you still in mourning over there? How's it going over there? Are you okay? The people wanted me to make sure you are okay.
Oh,
you had a death in the royal family. Are you okay? Are you okay?
The worst thing about all of this is that the TV has been fucking awful.
Oh.
Literally every single channel has just been running Prince Philip bullshit all day. Like I'm sick of that fucking old cunt at this point.
You know what, Jacob?
I'm sick of it.
Thoughts and prayers. We're sending thoughts and prayers your way. We love you. And everybody who's listening, just reach out to Jacob, give him a care emoji. He loves the care emojis. Let him know that we're here with them. But that's going to do it for us. Derek Michael, we could have invited him on. I thought about it, Jacob. I had the text sent to him. Hey, Brett can't be on. Do you want to join us? And then it was like I got smarter and I just deleted it. I said, no, not today. We'll do this next time. Again, sponsored by Manscaped. Everyone go out, buy Manscaped. Use promo code Overstated. We love everybody that listens. Mm-hmm. You can catch Jacob, myself, and Brett in our Facebook group, Overstated NBA Show. And again, we're doing up until the playoffs start, or probably throughout the playoffs. We're doing Friday night streams. So every Friday we'll sit together, we'll watch a game, whether it's League Pass, we'll have a couple drinks, we'll hang out. It's a lot of fun. Jacob he'll be on it when he can, but again with the time change. But for myself and Jacob, thank you everybody. We appreciate the support, and we will catch you next time. Peace.